Today we are going to talk about UK-India relations, a SWOT analysis in PESTEL framework. SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities and threat. Within the PESTEL framework, that is political, economic, social, technological, environmental and legal framework. So we'll be picking up each aspect at one time, like political, then what are the strength, weakness, opportunities when it comes to India and UK, and that's how we'll move further to talk about. And this topic has been picked up considering the recent UK-India agreements, regulatories, which are going to be signed in coming years. So that's why this becomes an interesting topic to talk about. So we have with us Professor Khurana. He was pro-VC IGNOU. He is an IIM Ahmedabad alumnus also, and he has taught in IIM Ahmedabad too. And Professor Khurana has a very vivid experience in terms of academics, when it comes to AICT, when it's come to IMA. He is the pioneer in developing all the frameworks. So he is the best person to discuss about it. So Professor Khurana, we welcome you to this podcast. We would request you to throw some light on the political scenario between India and UK.
Yeah. Before that, just let me say this. SWOT analysis we have learned to use in the corporate context, right? And in the country context, there are a lot of descriptions about the political environment, the technology and so on. That also had to be put together because there is a technological spectrum, social spectrum, and so on, and relationships. And on the other hand, there are country ratings. Country ratings like BBB, like they've done it in India
Modi
recently, and Modi and various other organizations. Then affect, the interest to be charged or an advice how well to do, how well you will do in that particular environment. Now we are doing this in the context of, how well we will do with each other. Now these trade deals actually have both sides of the sword. Yes, you gain something, you lose something.
Every coin has two sides.
And it's not easy because trade in context of some countries are humongous. It's more than $1 trillion for US. International trade, right? And out of that, about 800 odd billion is China. Right. Now these are the sizes of economies, 100 countries' economies, $1 trillion. So this is not insignificant. And supposing we're charging 20% across the board on the imports, right? Then it's how much is of 20% of 1 trillion? It's $20 billion. No, more than $200 billion. $200 billion. That's a lot of money. Okay. And we need to understand these country contexts for taking a number of decisions. So let's go one by one, as you rightly said. There are always great details, this party, that party, somebody going up, somebody coming down. But the strengths are that we have a strong diplomatic relationship. There was some hate relationship in the beginning in the 40s and 50s. More or less it is gone. Especially after we have exceeded their economy size, I think people have become very comfortable that, we are bigger than the mother country. And so we have a good relationship both with the Conservatives and the Labour. The Labour Prime Minister and our Prime Minister met. And before that, Rishi Sunak, our own son-in-law, was there, Infosys chairman's son-in-law, was the Prime Minister. And there are many ministers who are of the Indian extraction and Pakistani extraction. In the London area, there are 28 boroughs where the mayors are Pakistanis, actually. Right? But then they are Indo-Pakistan. Having said this, there is a relationship. Our people are sitting in the parliament there. More than 20 of this kind of background. And they still understand our parliament because they made the laws. Most of the important laws were made during the British times, right? And then have come the newer areas like cyber laws and environmental laws and so on. So the political environment is positive.
But there's a kind of weakness at the end of UK after this Brexit event. They are looking for some partner for their trade because Brexit has impacted their trade to a large extent. And I think the recent move is an answer to that only. Another is, though there are a lot of opportunities in terms of defense, security, or probably the to counter terrorism and all, but there are threats also because both the countries have their own motives, have their own self-interest, which is though political relations are good to a large extent, I would say, but somewhere down the line, both the countries have their own self-interest, which is creating a threat or a kind of threat when it comes to political relationship between India and UK.
Okay, ma'am, look at it this way. There was a referendum in which, by a small margin, quit EU. Referendum got passed, right? And a particular PM at that time went very strongly after it. And they said, we will be sovereign, we will decide our own things and own things and own things. But it also means that with the same 27 countries, you have to have individual bilateral agreements, right? You're no more part of agreement with one organization, and then you become same issue. Otherwise, now you keep on changing your tariff, you keep on doing this. During this period, after Brexit, Ireland has become, first of all, their GDP is now more than UK's. Okay, most of the UK corporate headquarters have shifted to Ireland. Outside, people are coming and setting up shop at Ireland because Ireland is part of EU. So if you set up a shop there, you have all the FTA entry into the rest of the European world, which these guys are missing out. Ireland used to be a backward country compared to UK. And in no time, this has happened. Now, this gives us an idea. By the way, the Prime Minister there also, the last one, was of Indian extraction from Bombay, Goanese from Bombay. Having said this, relationship there is also very good. Ireland and we in India, we supported each other's independence movement also. So, we are a conduit also for UK to have the relationship with the Ireland. We have to remember one thing. Our market physically now is very large.
Right.
And large markets interest people, and to feed them at different places, you have to do different things and then get fed. Okay, so now let's look at therefore
Economic.
It's an opportunity. If you look at other opportunities, we have to understand it is very, very clear that wherever UK's king, England's king is king, and that is in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and UK. They have similar laws. They share intelligence. They share military platforms. They share a number of other things. Okay, partly competitive, but New Zealand is the dairy farm for UK. Australia is the wheat farm for UK, etc., etc. So, dealing well with UK, driving well with UK, means that you are in the financial services network, you are in the shipping network, and then you are in the network closer to these countries. Okay, so it's a question of utilizing that opportunity. If you want to add something.
See, I think we have mixed up so many things together that we have talked about political aspects, we have talked about economic aspect, we have even picked up the legal aspect when we are talking about regulatory and all. So if I compile all that, in totality, overall, there are a lot of strengths, a lot of positive aspects when it comes to India and UK. But broadly, there are weaknesses in terms of tariffs, weaknesses in terms of the Brexit, that I have already discussed, weakness in terms of difference in cultural norms of India and UK, though Britishers have ruled India for almost 100 years. But still there is a difference in the norms and culture, the difference, the way they treat Indians. Though after Mr. Sunak, you said our son-in-law, Infosys son-in-law, things are changing, but still that mindset does not change, have not changed even after so many years of independence to India. So that societal norms is one of the weakness when it comes to India-UK relationships. Then yes, though there are a lot of efforts being put up in terms of to collective joint project, joint research, joint intellectual properties or pay and all. But there is always a threat in terms of carbon taxes, which we discussed in our earlier podcast also, when it comes to UK and India, because UK is going to impose those carbon taxes on India, which will increase the cost of Indian trade. So that's how there could be certain legal complexities, there could be certain regulatory complexities, which may hamper this relationship, and both the countries may not be able to reap the benefits as they have thought of. So, what we should talk about from in this discussion, that what exactly to be done so that overall it's a win-win situation to both the countries.
Okay, let me add. Quickly, if I had to do something and I had to give a rating, what I would have done is on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 5, put down these strengths and weaknesses and all that. And many of these things, as we've seeing in the slides, there are strength and also weakness.
Right.
You know, having agreement, not having agreement is like Brexit again, and having an agreement is because some tight conditions are there.
Yes.
But you sleep over it, nothing happens, and it goes. So, as we talk in corporates, that if we can convert the weaknesses into opportunities,
yes,
right?
Yes.
If we can convert threats into strengths,
then,
yes, then we are doing better.
Yes.
So now, quickly, let's do it. You're
Yes.
right. We were okay.
Or sorry, I would just add, because you mentioned the corporate world. So what we say in corporate world, that harness the opportunities with your strength, minimize the threats with your strengths, and converts the weak threats to opportunities if possible. Otherwise, if weakness and threats come together, then it's a lose-lose situation for both the parties.
Okay.
So that we have to take care of.
Now, as you had rightly said earlier, we are flitting from political to economic to legal, etc. Now, for a while, just let's concentrate. And one piece by like economic and social and all that. Let's just stick to that for a minute or two each, right?
Okay.
Okay, so we now come to economic. We have covered the political, fair enough, except the defense, security, and counter-terrorism issues are there. But we are on the same wavelength there with the UK, that we don't want this terrorism. They also
Yes.
whether it's Khalistan earlier or it is Pak terrorism or
yes.
Islamic terrorism, etc. So we are on the same side of the story. And so if we share the intelligence, that itself is good. And their intelligence systems are good. You know, this group of the four kings, offshoots.
Okay.
Kings offshoots. Okay, now economic strengths. Growing trade and investment ties. We have something like $25 billion of trade now. And by 2030, Mr. Piyush Goyal and their secretary have talked about 2 days ago that they want to add another $25 billion.
Right.
Okay, so that's fair enough. There's a target, and targets have to be achieved by doing certain things,
Right.
or by opening certain things, by adding some lines, and so on and so forth. UK, unfortunately, is no more in the game of defense. We are now behind, and the others have gone ahead, and probably we won't be spending on defense because this is the big item. So now, what are the weaknesses? Tariffs and trade barriers. The opportunity is to manage it.
Right.
And we have started doing this,
moving towards FTA.
14 chapters out of 20.
11 chapters out of 26.
26. No, that was a few days ago. Maybe they
now
have
it's,
done today.
yeah, probably.
So it's possible. So opportunity is a free trade agreement. Government of India is generally not in favor of free trade agreements because they're very afraid that if they do with one grouping, like let's say EU, the ASEAN we will not be able to refuse. And ASEAN, they are worried that China will use that as a conduit. And so,
but I think they may agree for a FTA. That's what I could sense from the latest news. That somewhere down the line, government is thinking in those
they are
lines.
doing conditional. 90% up to 95% up to this year, up to decade, and then not more than 5% item. So they will keep X percentage of items, and they might be big items, right?
Yeah, but slowly, gradually, they might shift to free trade agreement.
No, that is stated.
That's what they stated.
This interim agreement says that, and it defines that so many percentage of the items which are traded will come on the free trade, and the free trade might mean 2-3%.
Very nominal kind of
like
tariffs.
USA used to have,
Yes,
2%,
yes,
just to keep it recorded. Okay, so now let's say threats: global economic uncertainties and protectionism. If protectionism becomes very strong, and the US direction is that, and I recall 1985 there was a movement to put in a lot of tariffs because USA had started going into massive deficits with Japan at that time and Germany. So Mr. Ronald Reagan, when he became the president, there is a 2-minute clip, I think, we'll sometimes attach it, who said that whole economic theory says and practice says that tariffs in the end do you harm. Even if you collect taxes now, right, they will do you more harm in a few years' time. And free trade is better. And if some companies cannot compete well and all that, it's better that they close down or go and do manufacturing somewhere from there they can compete. At the same time, the Prime Minister of Singapore, he was invited to the Congress, US Congress, to speak. And he exactly used the same term. He said that we are a small country, we can be overwhelmed by the bigger ones, but conceptually speaking, free trade is good for us. So they went for free trade. By the way, they have complete free trade with the US even as now. Singapore, by the way, follows mostly British systems.
Singapore is a different nation.
Yes.
That's a different nation.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the depth of thinking of the chief executives at that time. Okay, so now let's go social strengths. Strong people-to-people ties.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned because they have ruled India so long.
And no, not just that. London area itself, as I said, 35 counties have Indian or Pakistani mayors. Right?
Yes.
So it's no more your second-class citizen or third-class citizen.
Yes, but still, somewhere down the line, that mentality percolates, and
but if you talk frankly,
that increase cultural tensions.
If you're talking for lower end of society, what happens in India? Do we treat them as similar?
So that's what that kind of cultural or social tensions are a threat in India when we talk about casteism. So same is there.
But let's put it this way: if it is 1 to 5 scale, it's not so serious. Maybe it's not perfect 5, maybe it's not even perfect 4, but it's 3 to 4. That's all.
3 to 4, right?
And then every society has this.
But that's one threat is. As
long as they take care of it, the system, the legal system, etc., has mechanisms to take care of those things, then I think one can manage. And when our economy becomes 2-3 times their economy, they will change.
They will change. They have changed a bit, but certain things are still there.
Okay, fine. Opportunities are increased collaboration in healthcare, education, and innovation.
Yeah, in pharma, in
Pakka yes. 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5.
Everything to gain.
Everything to gain.
UK also buys our generics now, I'm told.
Yes.
Their NHS buys.
That's what I'm saying. Pharma, then NHS is UK. Even I would say the lot of doctors moving to UK from India, and NHS welcomes them.
Yes.
They welcome them
because they don't have sufficient other people. Right?
And they are being absorbed very well in UK.
It is said that if Indians in the nursing, it's mostly from Kerala, that if Indians you take out from the NHS will crash.
Yes.
Will crash. Right? Yes. And they are respecting or not?
They are respecting. That's what I'm saying. They are welcoming Indian doctors and they are absorbing them very well.
So you're proving my point.
Yes.
Okay.